So now that you have the sticker template file open, what you're going to do is you're going to come to the flat character that you designed of yourself, and you're going to highlight it and you're going to copy. And then you're going to go to the sticker layout. And I would recommend zooming out because your sticker is probably bigger than the space. Yeah, definitely bigger than the space that I have set up for the size that we're going to use. But once it's pasted, what you'll do is hold down your shift key and grab a corner point of the bounding box. Now, again, the bounding box is just this box that shows that it's selected. It's made up of these little small dots or squares at the corners. Those are showing you the boundary of your image. So this is the highest point. That's the furthest to the right, or the furthest to the left. That's the furthest to the right. And that's the furthest to the bottom. So a bounding box is showing you the boundary around your artwork that you have selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep selecting this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it over here in one corner so that I can size this up just a little larger. There we go. Now I can kind of put that one towards the middle. What I'd like to do though is I need to give myself enough room around the outside where the actual cut is going to go for the sticker. Now this will be different for each student. So I recommend before you turn it in, I want to take a look at it and make sure that it's right so that I can make some adjustments to it if there's anything that's wrong. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, now that I have it resized, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drag a copy of the entire thing. This is going to turn into the offset path that we're going to create for the outside of the sticker. So each person's is going to be a little bit different. So on this one, it looks like there's a lot of individual shapes, but it's possible you may have used lines or strokes. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to highlight the whole thing that's your copy, and you're going to go to Object, and you're going to click Expand. And with this, you're going to expand both the object, the fill, and the stroke. And then I'm going to go back to Object and expand again. I'm going to go to Object and expand again. And now I'm going to test it and see if this works. This is the part where it's going to be different for each person depending on what you used when you created this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look over here to the right when everything's been selected and it's been expanded. And I'm going to click on the Unite. Now, in theory, what this should do is it should create one solid shape. If you end up having multiple shapes, pause there and call me over so that I can take a look at it. But if you were lucky and you were able to expand it all the way out and everything looks good like this, then I'm going to do offset path. Now the offset path amount that you're going to put in is, let's go ahead and try 10 point. So I'm going to do 10 PT. I'm going to change the join to round so that it rounds things off. Notice if I do miter, it's got these really sharp edges. If I do round, it kind of bubbles them out a little bit. Now, the thing with the printer, when we cut these little spots right here may be a little too tight. So what I might need to do is I might need to actually add an additional shape in here because I don't really want, the blade will not cut perfectly around this outside. So this is another part where you're going to want me to take a look at your offset path here and just be patient because I'm sure I'm going to be helping a lot of people. I want to make sure that it's right so that when it does get cut, it doesn't ruin your sticker. So with this, I'm going to actually simplify this path a little bit. And again, this is another thing where yours might be slightly different. You might have a lot more jagged lines. This one's a little bit smoother. This simplified path, if I bring it all the way down here, say, now that doesn't look exactly what I want. But if I bring it all the way back here, it leaves it exactly the same. So somewhere in between here, it's going to round things off just a little bit. And I'm kind of liking that. I kind of like that there's a little bit of a divot or a little point there. I kind of like that you still get to see the outline a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that. But this one little area right up there, anytime there's going to be that sharp and tight of a curve, it's not really going to work well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new shape in here. And I might even do something to kind of round that off a little bit somehow. Maybe it's more. What I'm looking for is I'm looking to kind of create a little bit more of a smooth corner. But in order to do that, now you can kind of see there's a whole bunch of additional shapes. So this is the part where it really is going to be tricky. Like there's a little outline. So I'm going to move that over. This part here is the offset path. It's just the outlined path. But then I added those two extra little shapes in there. That little spot down there is going to be a little bit of an issue because that sharp turn, I know that the printer doesn't really like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move another little rectangle down here towards the bottom. I'm just going to line those up so they're nice and lined up down here. The way I can tell is I can press Command Y, and you see those aren't quite lined up down here. I'm going to grab that, grabbing it from the line itself. There we go. Now it's perfectly aligned. And then I can drag this out until it starts to line up with the other part of the shape that's here. You can kind of see it's not really lining up. So this is one of those things you may end up having to play around with a bit to get it to work. But you can see that's the complicated shape that's got all the cool details. That's the copy of the outline. And this becomes where we're going to use this to cut. So let's go ahead and unite all of those. So now I've got this nice kind of smooth outline. We're almost done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave myself this copy over here because if your stuff is messed up at all, I can use this to potentially fix it if I see a corner or something that's really, I think, maybe a problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press Command Y to bring it back. And now this last part is really important. So make sure it's only one shape. But the part we need to do is we need to grab a swatch. This hot pink swatch right here is called a cut contour line. This little line that we're going to end up creating on the outside, so the stroke, that little line is not going to print, but the printer will see that pink line and it will cut it. So let's go ahead and come back over here once we've applied that. We're going to change the stroke. This is the really important part because if you don't do this part right, then when it will actually print the pink line. You're going to go to 0.25. So it's that little thin amount. Then on the fill, I'm going to change the fill to none. That's this red line with the white box. So that now it's only that line. And now I can bring this back. And it's a little big, so I'm going to hold down the Shift key to be able to bring that back up. Now you'll notice it's touching the edge here, so I'm going to need to shrink this whole thing in. So I'm going to grab both of them and I'm going to shrink it just a little bit more. And then I can kind of nudge this up so I can center it somewhere in this empty space where the artboard is. This is the empty space I'm talking about, the white. And that is what the sticker will end up looking like when it's printed. The only difference will be instead of the pink line, it will cut that area. So once you have it to this point, what you should have in this document is you should have this pink outline stroke that's specific. You've got to use that. It's got to be 0.25 with no fill. And go ahead and leave the extra one that you made that was the United version off to the side. And what you'll do from here is you'll go to File, Save As, and then for this one, if you can, do your last name, first initial, and call it Sticker Cut. And have it as an AI file. Actually, no, I take that back. Let's go ahead. Yeah, actually, let's save it as an AI file. Sorry, I'm second guessing what we're going to do. Last year, I ended up doing all of the cut lines myself. So none of my students did that. But since now that we're on campus and you're going to be able to do more printing and stuff, I want to make sure you get a chance to practice this and kind of see what works and see what doesn't work.